Welcome to qnawire.
Okay, so I see that you need help with this question. And so it states the following. It wants you to find the margin of error and the confidence interval for A and B. And for A, it's a 66.9% of people under the age of 20 years old who are eligible had a driver's license. And B is 47.7, and that is 20 years later. And so this is based off of 1,600 people in a sample, and it wants you to use a confidence interval of 95%. So for A, you would do 0.669 plus or minus 1.96 times the square root of 0.669 times 1 minus 0.669 divided by 1,600. So then you would take 0.669 plus or minus 1.96 times 0.1176. Then you would take 0.669 plus or minus 0.02306. And this right here is your margin of error. Then for your confidence interval, you're going to do, if you would subtract these two numbers, and you would get 0.6459. And if you add the two numbers together, you would get 0.6921. Then for B, 20 years later, you would do 0.477 plus or minus 1.96 times the square root of 0.477 multiplied by 1 minus 0.477. I forgot to close the parenthesis there. Divide that by 1,600. So then you'd have 0.477 plus or minus 1.96 times 0.01249. Then you have 0.477 plus or minus 0.02447. So this here is my margin of error. And then you're going to take these two numbers and subtract them, and you're going to get 0.4525. And if you add them together, you get 0.5015. So then I think the last question says, if the margin of error is the same for parts A and B, why or why not? Hold on. What is the interval estimate for the number of eligible people under 20 years old who have a driver's license? So I got the 95%. So the margin of error is, if we notice, it's larger in part B. This is because the sample proportion of the eligible people under 20 years old who had a driver license in Part B is smaller, or we can say closer to 0.5, than the sample proportion of eligible people under 20 years old who had a driver's license in year A. This leads to a larger interval estimate. So I hope that this video helps. This is a middle school math teacher signing